Namaste. We're here with Gautamji once again. Gautam, thank you so much for your time as always.
Namaste. Thank you, Nick. Pleasure to be here again.
So, in today's podcast, we'll be discussing a very important topic, and it's being shared on the very auspicious day of Guru Purnima. The topic is, which step are you taking? And Gautam, I would like to share a little background about how this topic came about. A few days ago, a friend introduced me to a temple and a trust of Baba, a very beautiful temple in Bangalore. And I will share a link of this place below in the description. And as you enter the temple, they have some quotes of Baba that Baba has inspired them with, and it is very much the same thing that Baba has said in the Charitra as well. And there was a beautiful line over there by Baba that if you take one step to God, God takes 10 steps to you. So I felt a discussion about this and around this for devotees, for the perspective of sadhana, effort, and for our devotion, if we can have with you.
Of course, that would be a nice topic to discuss.
In fact, this many other saints have also said, I believe even Ramakrishna Dev would say the same thing in different words. And I felt this also goes to show to me is the effort on the devotee's part. It could begin with yearning, but sincerity and then practice.
Yes. You see, this thing about if you take one step is very interesting. Now, normally, when we have setbacks in life, let's say loss of some sort or a tragedy, that is when we think of God. You see? And as the great Advaita sage Ramana Maharshi said, if not the first blow, if not the second blow, third, fourth, or fifth, eventually one starts asking what life is about. You could say that is taking a step towards God. What tends to happen, Nick, in my estimation, is that we take a step towards God because we want certain things. I don't think that is the step being referred to. What is being referred to is accepting the will of a higher power, of the source, which we call God. When we take a step to God in that sense, with an attitude of acceptance and surrender, then this quotation comes into play. That one step towards me and I will take 10 steps towards you.
Gautam, could we discuss this also in the light of practices, like especially it being Guru Purnima? I felt, from the perspective of worship, from the perspective of remembrance, remembering Baba in our hearts and minds all the time, then through the reading of the Charitra, the bhajans, the artis, meditation, all these aspects also, if you could, the steps, because see, in every moment we have a choice what we do with our time, the most precious thing we are all given. So if you could shed a little bit of light on that, please.
You see, Nick, that's a very beautiful thing comes into play when we are immersed in all that you mentioned. You see, after all these, you could say, are different techniques to remember God. Whether we are reading something, we are just having Baba in remembrance. What is basically happening, if we really see it in its very fine view, normally in the day we are obsessed with ourselves. We are obsessed with what we can do for ourselves, who we are, the masks we wear. Now, when that turns around, when the spotlight is moved away from ourselves to the source, as represented by Baba in this case, that is called the process of being unselfed. Because now my spotlight is on this power, this divine power which knows best. I have my limitations. The ego is very limited. All through my day, I'm functioning in a very limited way. But if throughout the day, my remembrance is on God through tools and techniques which appeal to me, whether it is reflecting on the teachings, reading some passages, or just visualizing Baba, whatever it may be. If that is constant, then what is the content of my consciousness? Rather than the poor me and my story and my worries and my hopes and my ambitions, content is now divine. It is sacred. I have now tapped into the source, so to speak. And that is when I realize things are in harmony. Because you see, the little me is in conflict all the time. Either I'm not happy about what someone said or what someone did, or a certain result in my life, or a certain happening. I'm always unsatisfied. You see? But when my content is full of God and divinity, there's no room for that dissatisfaction. And that is why the Guru is what, Nick, after all? You see, if you look at the definition of the word Guru, they are various. Remover of darkness, giver of light, remover of ignorance, spiritual weight. You see, so these are the definitions of the word Guru, right? And what is this darkness? It is the ego with all its antics. So Guru Purnima, in fact, is such a sacred day, especially for anyone who's on the spiritual path, because it is on this day that the grace flows the strongest. You see, in fact, Nick, you began with the statement, if on Guru Purnima we take that one step, we will be quite surprised as to how much grace does for us.
Gautam, I also wish to speak with you about Satsangat, because one thing I've felt is, when we are devotees of Baba, we are all, as you use the word, brothers and sisters, like Guru Bandhu. When we are in that company where everything we talk about or share is about Baba, it gives great joy to the heart. Like, I have felt that this bond is very special with those few devotees or, friends, where you sense that love for Baba emanate from them. So, then I feel that also, in a way, aids one's sadhana, or, like we walk towards Baba together.
Yes, you see, this is, again, I must say, you've raised a very pertinent point. Now, I'll tell you, supposing you meet some friends from your past, let's say there's a social circle or whatever context may be, and you discuss those kind of things. Which holidays have you been to? Which restaurants have you visited? Which movies have you seen? There's no harm in that. But that is where the level of communication is. You see, with satsang, with the sangha, which is what? The company of truth. In this case, it is truth which has brought people together. It is truth which has brought the people together in different ways. It may one person may feel through a chance encounter with someone, I have become part of a group. Someone who was really seeking desperately to belong to a group found it, whatever it be. It is the quest for this truth. What is life about? There's definitely more to it than what I'm seeing, which brings people together. So there are no masks being worn, because you see, we are not trying to impress our Guru Bandhus. We have been drawn to the light. This is a very special relationship. And this is really something to take note of, because then we can support each other on this path. It so happens, I'll give you one example. I may have mentioned this before. I knew someone in Delhi who was very drawn to a spiritual master. His name was Nisargadatta Maharaj. He was extremely drawn to Maharaj and his teachings, but he could not find anyone in his neighborhood who had the same interest. And it was all about mundane conversations which he was getting tired of. So that yearning for satsanga was so great for him, Nick. Now this is a very beautiful sign also, because you could say that this inner calling has been awakened. And so for those who are already part of a satsanga, they need to understand it's of tremendous value, because this sangha is a sangha which is supposed to be supporting each other on life's journey. And satsanga does not just mean people. The company of truth means what is the company you keep in your own mind throughout the day. So for example, if in the daytime we find we are condemning people, judging people and criticizing them, that is the content of our consciousness, right? Is that the company of truth? Whereas if we see that everyone is an instrument of God, how God has designed that person, I don't take things personally anymore. I am nobody to judge. I am nobody to condemn. If I find flaws in the other, then I most certainly have flaws in myself too. So satsanga, this company of truth, you see, American mystic Joel Goldsmith said something very beautiful. He said the word neighbor does not just mean your physical neighbor. What are the neighbors in your mind? They are closer to you, in fact. What thoughts are you harboring? Are they thoughts of harm, of conniving, of, all these qualities which are very prevalent, as we know? Judging, blaming, condemning, hatred, malice, ill will, spite. Or is the satsanga, is the neighbor imbued with that same quality of truth? So here the point, Nick, is I feel that a devotee of Sai Baba in this sense has to be quite watchful that what is going on throughout the day, not just with people, but in my own mind. It's a very important point you have raised.
It is Baba's assurance in the Charitra that where my Leelas are sung, day and night, everywhere, in every direction, I am there, ever present, over there, where my Leelas are sung. So, Kirtan, Bhajan, Baba has said that when people come together, and that is experienced by millions of devotees throughout. So, sometimes if one needs a bit of a spark, just to remember Baba's assurance. And as you said, it is not necessary we have to have somebody else. But even if one is immersed in the Charitra and Baba's bhajans, with that faith that Baba has given this assurance, then that I feel is a very important step one can take.
And more so important in this day and age, because we are so fragmented from morning to evening. We are multitasking, doing hundreds of things. Social media is consuming us. We are truly living very fragmented lives. Now, when that whole focus comes together on one unit, which is Baba, and it constantly happens, then that starts permeating our day. That overrides what has otherwise been our default setting of being too distracted and fragmented. So this constant remembrance is like as if we are collecting our consciousness together in a sense to come back to some wholeness, something which is full, something which is beyond the little me. And definitely because the ego knows that it needs something to focus on. So whether if one is inclined to bhajans, whether if one is inclined to reading or both, whatever it be the means, this coming together is quite important. Now, for example, I remember reading somewhere that a devotee told Ramana Maharshi that when I'm at work, I completely forget about all this, the self and this and the source and all that. So Bhagwan replied to him, saying, whenever you are at work, tell yourself, it is not me who is working, but rather it is the current that is working through me. So what is that? That is the process of being unselfed, because till now I feel I'm the doer. I am working very hard and taking that whole onus on myself. Now, if we say that, okay, Baba, whatever happens during the course of the day, it's very clear to me you are guiding it. You're the force behind it. I am the instrument. Then I find that I am not that invested in the work in terms of, it becoming a burden and a load on me. Because then the strength comes from that source too. So this also is remembrance. This is satsanga. That every time I find I'm too involved in a situation, too caught up, anxious, wound up, it's a sign that the me, the little me, has taken possession of it. And when I relax and surrender and step back and say, all right, there's an intelligence which is far more intelligent than I am. Let me allow it to do its job. That is when Baba takes over. You see, but that space has to be created. And remembrance is the key to that.
There is a very beautiful line in the Aarti, which is Jaisa Bhav, Taisa Anubhav. And while I was working on the book Sai Baba and Anna, Dr. Gavankar, one of Baba's Mahabhaktas, he had specifically had satsang on this one line. He would tell devotees that reflect on this line in the Aarti. As is your bhav, so is your experience.
Very true. And if your bhav is compromised, feeble, fragmented, that will be one's experience.
So that would automatically take me to the next question there to get it, all in, of course, the practices, but then just awareness, even if you realize that, okay, it is fragmented, that awareness itself is a great starting point.
Of course, it's a very big thing because mostly we are not aware. You see, because we are running on old patterns and old conditioning just with, blinders on. And we could do that for the rest of our lives. So when this awareness comes, my God, I was involved in something or this happened, that awareness is truly a gift from God. And we are human beings. We are going to take missteps. We are going to trip, no doubt about it. But by and by, when we find that our remembrance is now more effortless because of the sadhana we've done, or earnestness, sincerity, it's coming more and more becoming our new default setting, which brings with it a degree of peace, equanimity and calm which I did not have earlier. Then I know that remembrance, satsanga, is happening effortlessly, because the only measure is how it has impacted my life. And that I will know. That is truly the test of my practices and sadhana and efforts. If I am able to navigate my boat through choppy waters, trusting the hand of the divine, obviously I will be more at peace than if I thought I was doing it myself.
One other beautiful thing in this temple was related to this. Baba also emphasizes, as is your relationship you take with me, so will your experience be. So if you see Baba as your parent, if you see Baba as your guru, now Ai has also spoken about this in detail in her interviews, that take one specific relationship with Baba and look up to Baba through that lens. Not that, just to make it clear, we are not saying one is better than the other, but one definitive relationship. And Baba himself, to add to this point, in the Charitra has many times he's told his devotees that this is a beautiful practice one can inculcate, that make Baba part of your daily life. For example, if you're cooking, think Baba would like this dish. Let me make it, dedicate this for him. If you're going out, pray, Baba, please come with me, be with me, guide me, protect me. So in every daily action, it is thereby surrendered you remember Baba. So this practice also Baba himself has told devotees to try and do in the Charitra. So I felt if we could discuss this in the light of the relationship.
Yes, in fact, what you said is beautiful, but very hard to practice unless we are really dedicated. Because, again, what you're saying is a constant remembrance. But we don't think before we step out of our homes, just open the door, run down, go here, go there to do things. Now, when Baba says, for example, if this thought is, if you take me as a friend, I am your friend. If you take me as a parent, I am your parent. You see, it's very important. Now, the thing is, I have many friends. So, am I taking Baba as only a friend? Baba has kept everything open. He is saying, whatever you take me as, I am that. So that is established. Now, if I take Baba as a parent, in fact, someone wrote to me, Nick, that I consider Sai Baba my grandfather. Okay. Now, you already have parents, or you had them, and you had grandparents, right? So these relationships are already there in your life in different forms and with different forms. Now, if you take Baba as the guru, what happens is then Baba becomes all your relationships. He becomes the friend, he becomes the parent, he becomes your co-worker. It is all encompassing. You see, this is very important because I may feel that, for example, I am someone who doesn't believe too much, let's say, in the concept of a guru. Let's say I'm new on this journey and I have that belief. And I say, oh, I prefer to consider so-and-so as my friend. That's all right. Wherever you're standing, you build that relationship. But the point here is that you have a representation of divinity, which is nothing else than your higher self. And if we embrace that for its magnitude, the Guru, Sai Baba as the Guru, then he will define all the relationships in our life. But if we approach him only from one dimension, that he is just like a grandparent, he's just like a friend, you see, we miss this wholeness of Sai Baba. So I think what Baba is doing is beautiful by saying that I am who you want me to be. He's wide open. Now the point is, are we wide open to take him for everything and not just one dimension of the relationship?
See, I would like to add something here. I, for example, of course, sees Baba as her guru, but she sees, when she was young, she would see Baba as her grandparent, her grandfather. But you see, that was so complete and whole. When I spoke of the practices earlier, you see that connection, that bond, that dependence was so complete that she would never do something without his consent. By that I mean prayer,
Exactly.
remembrance. So I would not want to undermine that any relationship is lesser than the other, but I would come back to this one point of bhav, complete remembrance, and complete faith. And see, this is why I feel the reading and understanding of the Charitra is so important, Gautam, because Baba has specifically spoken on this in his very own words, that, where even, for example, then something simple, as simple, which normally, the layperson may look at cooking as just a chore, that too can become sadhana. So while you are immersed in your day-to-day responsibilities, so long as it is dedicated to him, then it becomes a sadhana, and then Baba, it is all directed towards Baba, and he runs the show then. It is then his responsibility.
Yes, and also what I feel happens, let's take cooking. Then one is more joyful and looking forward to this activity. Sometimes we are so pulled down by the burden of life and we think everything is a chore and everything is tiresome. That is the energy we bring to the task. Let's say in this case, cooking. But as you rightly said, imagine we are cooking for Baba. Then what will be our approach? We are not going to be grumbling and, being morose about it.
I would like to add something, and this applies only to Baba, and we are so fortunate here that he rewards devotees. Then comes the little miracles and little something when, like a child, like he will reward you. I'm not, we've all experienced it. So as one goes forward, then coming back to Baba's assurance that you take that first step, Baba will take the 10. So, then these are signs of encouragement. Obviously, we don't get stuck there, but that is so beautiful. Like, as we go toward him, he too shows his signs of presence, which everyone here has experienced in some form or the other.
Yes, and then what we find is that one step on our part becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, It's like it's just expanding all the time. It's so beautiful. And I just to reiterate this point, Nick, when that starts happening, we are no longer living our lives as the little me. The small ego with its problems, trying to survive, battle, navigate relationships, navigate situations, want certain outcomes. We become more and more open to whatever happens, knowing that the results have never been in our control. All we can do is do our best. So coming back to cooking, all I can do is do my best. But that's the most important. That is why Maharaj said the road is the goal. But we are so burdened by wanting to reach somewhere in a certain outcome, we forget that. And this approach of you take one step towards me and I take 10 towards you is this, that if you dedicate all your actions to me, if you remember me all the time, knowing that I am there, you needn't worry like you've been worrying, then this is going to happen, that the source is going to take us in its wide open arms.
There is an assurance by Lord Krishna in the Gita. The same assurance is given by Baba in the Charitra, that such a devotee who remembers me over everything else, over food, water, clothing, relative, loved ones, and remembers me alone, to such a one I am indebted, and he is my true devotee. So this is a very, very important assurance, and what more can one ask for? I mean, Baba has given so much. He's ever present, ever there with all of us. So, I would like to end it with that. And I hope, for me, this is always New Year, Guru Purnima. So I hope with these assurances of Baba, we just stay in his remembrance always.
Yes, and I would like to wish everyone a most auspicious Guru Purnima. May it be fulfilling at all levels. May it provide an impetus for one's spiritual journey in the year ahead. And may the grace of the Almighty, of Sai Baba, fill your life, fill your cup, fill your heart, and fill your awareness. Om Sai Ram.